No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength which his body is capable. This is one of the best known quotes from the Greek philosopher Socrates that still roams in the head of every athlete to this day. So to keep the mood, today I'm going to talk about bodybuilding, more precisely about its bronze era. I'm Vinny and this is Athlete Stuff, and to avoid wasting time, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications and let's go! Since the earliest times of mankind, sports involving brute force have always been present. Even more so in ancient Greece, where the first Olympic Games were held in mid-776 BC. Human beings have always sought to find the limits of their physical fitness, not just for sporting reasons, but mainly for war, as the body always needed to be in top condition. Why am I saying this? Well, because until the end of the 19th century, which is where the history of this sport begins, there was no thought of worshipping the body, but only of what it could produce. And it was precisely in this historical context that Friedrich Wilhelm Miller was born in 1867 in the Kingdom of Prussia. The boy was short and did not have a good immunity, falling ill quite often. His family was Jewish, but Lutheran, and they wanted their son to eventually become a minister of that religion. And he might have, had it not been for a trip to Italy that his family took when Friedrich was 10 years old. The purpose of the trip was to see if the boy would become healthier with some fresh Italian air, which he did. But he also found himself fascinated by the sculptures and paintings on display in the country's museums. His fascination became a fixation when he began to study the subject assiduously, and it was when he returned from the trip that, according to his own words, he was determined to become a strongman. It was then that he began to train and study, starting to develop his physique. But it wasn't enough. He needed more. He wanted to achieve perfection. And in pursuit of this goal, Friedrich traveled to Italy several times throughout his life to analyze the statues and take their measurements in order to try to reproduce them on his body. In 1885, Friedrich left Prussia to escape military service and began traveling around Europe as a circus star, adopting the name Eugene Sandow. Eugene means nobleman, and Sandow was a modification of his mother's maiden name, Sandow. Sandow was a strongman, an athlete who performed feats of physical strength considered impossible for the average person, and it was completely normal for people like him to perform in circuses or street shows. While in Brussels, Belgium, Sandow visited the gym of a fellow strongman called Ludwig Durlacher, known as Professor Attila, who guided and encouraged him to take part in a strength competition in London in 1889. Sandow blew away his opponents, beating the champion with ease and becoming instantly famous throughout England, touring to various places and performing uncountable feats of physical strength. Among them, some of the most famous were the one-arm snatch where he lifted 180 pounds, the 270 pounds bench press, doing pull-ups using just one finger and lifting a modified dumbbell so that one person could sit on each side of it. His name spread so much that Florence Ziegfeld Jr., a Broadway businessman, ended up managing Sandow from 1893 onwards, and quickly realized that the audience was often more fascinated by his muscles than by his strength. So they came up with the idea of making up some posing routines for his shows. It's important to note that anabolic steroids didn't exist at the time, since testosterone was first isolated and synthesized in 1935. So it wasn't nearly as common to see bodies as muscular as his. The following year, Sandow starred in a short film for Edison Studios, which was owned by none other than the inventor and businessman Thomas Edison. Thomas believed that Sandow was practically the perfect man, and therefore a film of his performances should be made so that it could be kept for posterity. At that point, Sandow realized it was time to go further, and ended up opening his first gym, launching his bodybuilding magazine and even writing books on the subject. One of these books, specifically the last one he published in 1904, was entitled Bodybuilding, a term that is still used today to refer to people who train with the purpose of sculpting the perfect body. He also worked hard to develop new training equipment, such as the rubber strands and the spring grip dumbbells. Also, he finally realized his dream by creating the first bodybuilding competition in history in 1901. The Great Competition, as it was named by Sandow, was held at the Royal Albert Hall in London, and its participants were handpicked from small competitions held by him all over England. The judges were the athlete and sculptor Sir Charles Lewis, the doctor and writer Arthur Conan Doyle, and Eugene Sandow himself. After analyzing the muscular development, balance of physique, condition and intonation of muscle tissue, skin condition and general health of all 60 participants, the judges announced their verdict. William Murray became the first bodybuilding champion, D. Cooper took the second place and A.C. Smith finished third. Everyone was presented with a small statue of Eugene Sandow based on the position they achieved: gold, silver and bronze, the latter of which is very famous for being the model for the Mr. Olympia trophy to this day. It's worth mentioning that, in addition to Sandow, many other notable figures stood out during the Bronze Era, such as Earl Liederman, Sigmund Klein, George Jowett, Tony Sanzone, Burt Goodrich, and a special highlight for George Hackenschmidt, who created the hack squat and the bench press, which used to be done prone to the floor. Many of these adaptations were due to the construction of the bars and dumbbells. Since although plates were already a thing, the most common was to have something that looks like a big dumbbell, since it had a long bar with a metal ball on each side. This design made it very difficult to do some exercises, like the squat for example. But don't worry, thanks to Milo Steinborn, squatting with weights became possible. He invented a movement called the Steinborn squat, which consisted of leaving the body in an upright position, getting into a half-curved position to the side and then settling into the common squat form with the bar already supported on the back. Movements like this were responsible for an immense buildup of strength, since they used a lot of muscles just to get into the position to start the exercise. Just to give you an idea, there is a world record from that era that still stands today. The one-armed deadlift of 664 pounds performed by Hermann Gorner in 1920. Unfortunately, there are no evidence of this feat aside from testimony of the ones who watched, which is understandable since Eugene Sandow is one of the most famous guys from the Bronze Era, and yet there are probably less than 20 pictures of him. Furthermore, as we know from research on the subject, average testosterone levels have been falling from generation to generation. So even if we don't have a specific number to work with, it's fair to say that those men had a lot more testosterone than these of this generation, which is one of the factors for the monstrous difference in strength. Some of the reasons for the high levels of testosterone are that alcohol consumption was much lower, the amount of processed food was minimal when compared to today, and a sedentary lifestyle was very uncommon. Truth be told, even if the athletes didn't follow specific diets, the common food was clean enough for testosterone levels to remain naturally high. In addition, these bodybuilders could certainly have had even more impressive physiques if they had access to today's equipment. For these reasons, the end of the Bronze Era is considered to be in 1939, because although the first steroid appeared in 1935, it was not yet sold in pharmacies and could not be compared to those that would be invented later. In conclusion, at this point the profession of bodybuilder really began to take shape and tournaments started to be organized more seriously, marking the beginning of the Silver Era. But that's a topic for another day, because now that you know the history of the Bronze Era, how about sharing this video with your friends so they can get to know it too? In fact, please share your thoughts with me in the comments, leave a like, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow the upcoming videos. That's it everyone, see you next time!